Welcome everyone to today's webinar, How Progress Can Simplify Data Access for CA. Today's session, you'll learn how CA technologies can leverage Progress technology to differentiate your solutions from the competition, speed time to market, and slash risk. This is Marlis Furs, your host for today's session. Michael Shaka, Senior Account Executive, and Jamie Merritt, Vice President Product Management at Progress, are looking forward to presenting Progress technology exclusively to the CA Technologies team. Michael Shaka has over 20 years' experience in the software industry. During his tenure, he has represented a small handful of premier software solution providers, including CA, where he was a regional manager of sales for the New England territory. Now, as the Global Account Manager representing Progress Software to CA Technologies, he is excited to once again be able to further extend the value CA solutions can bring to the world. Jamie Merritt is an accomplished technologist and vendor strategy professional with over 15 years in the software industry. Prior to dedicating his focus to data, Jamie held a number of technical and business roles that focused on bringing new products to market and building successful businesses around them in the business process management, complex event processing, and integration SOA market landscapes. He is based out of the Progress DataDirect offices in Morrisville, North Carolina. I would like to hand today's session off to Mike Shaka. Welcome, Michael.
Thanks so much for that introduction, and thanks everyone for attending today's session. CA Technologies and Progress DataDirect have enjoyed a 14-year relationship, and as a result, we have a universal agreement that spans all of DataDirect Connect for both ODBC and JDBC for relational data sources. So what does this mean? Well, what it means is that all divisions and product lines are eligible, and you can see a few of them represented here on the slide today. Now, in addition to relational data sources, we also provide premium connectivity solutions to some of CA's proprietary sources as well as Teradata and some other use cases. So the purpose of today's webinar is really twofold. One, because we feel that not everyone at CA might be fully aware of what's available to you, we want to help spread the word. We want to inform you on what assets CA owns so that you can start leveraging these today. Now, it's important to note that some of the items that we're going to discuss today are items that may not be covered as part of the universal agreement. But if that's the case, just ask us and we'll be happy to address that as questions and needs come up. Now, the second part is the world's changing, and demands for access have grown, and they're going to continue to grow at a very rapid pace. These changes are relative to NewSQL, NoSQL sources, as well as those from cloud and mobile. And these create tremendous challenges. We want to share with you what we're doing to help keep our partners ahead of these changes so that you can be prepared for these connectivity issues that might arise. So with that being said, it brings me great pleasure to introduce Jamie Merritt, our VP of Product Management at Progress DataDirect. Jamie?
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate it. And once again, thank you everyone for joining us here today. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where in the world you are. And let's just jump right into the content. So some of you, although many of you are already our customer, as Mike already went through, but some of you may not be using our products, may not have familiarity with Progress software. So very brief introduction to Progress. We are a 30-year-old software company. We've grown largely through the strength of the relationships we've built with our partners. So we have a very large-scale partner audience. We have about 2,000 different partners throughout our Progress network who have built and embedded our technology in over 5,000 different applications, serving the needs of about 4 million users in the IT ecosystem today. We've been very successful helping our partners transition to cloud, and over 10% of them at this point have successfully introduced or created new cloud offerings built once again upon our technology. So wherever you are in the world, any 140,000 different enterprises in 175 different countries, people are using Progress technologies. Sometimes we're in a way where we're embedded in so many different software products that it's nearly impossible to get through a day without using something from Progress. And that's just important to know as you look for how can we expand our usage and our partnership inside of CA. As I said, we've grown a lot historically through our OEM channel. You look at the OEM names and the OEM channel that we've created, especially inside of our DataDirect business, that data connectivity business, where our partnership with CA is bred from. And we have all the leading software vendors in the world. If you did a list of the top 100 software vendors, 90% of them or so would be using some components from our data connectivity software. So we're very pervasive, and in this premium connectivity space, when you need the ability to go into your customer environment and work with what they have inside their IT ecosystem, and you want to have your SEs or your sales folks or even your evaluators have everything they need in the box available to them and ready to connect to whatever they have in their ecosystem, we're the best partner for you to work with. And the software industry, the ISVs at large, have certainly recognized that, which is demonstrated by our large OEM channel. Now, why are people choosing DataDirect? Why do ISVs especially choose us? And really, why has CA chosen us? Well, first and foremost, it's a dramatic reduction in complexity. You don't need to worry about the details of connecting to each and every individual data source, every database, every data warehouse. We're a one-stop shop and that single vendor that provides you connectivity to all of the market-leading data sources. So you don't have to worry about where my next connector is coming from when a new database comes on market. Excuse me. You don't have to worry about your SE not being armed when he walks into a customer environment, not having a connector. You have confidence in your ability and what's in the box. Also, because you're dealing with that same vendor, there's a lot of similarities, a lot of normalization we do across all of our different connectors. So the reality is you're writing less code, you're using a consistent portfolio of connectivity, which allows you to focus once again on your core competency and not have to deal with all these variations between all these different platforms and various packaged apps and data sources that you need to support. Many people choose us, and one of the first reasons they choose us is really the enterprise qualities of our software. We're designed for operating inside of mission-critical environments. So many high-end banks, for example, use our technology. We're used in the telco space, and really a lot of them have chosen primarily because of the performance characteristics, the scalability characteristics, and the reliability that we deliver consistently throughout our portfolio. We don't have one driver that works better than another. We're very, very religious about the performance and scalability aspects of all of our software. So we always make sure that's a core component of what we're delivering to market. Certainly the strength of having a single vendor solution also helps reduce your support costs. We take on a lot of the support associated with connectivity. We take on a lot of the quality that you would need to do. You don't have to worry about that because that quality and that supportability is baked into the products that you're embedding our connectivity in. And finally, and I always highlight this, and I probably mentioned it a few times already, is that when you walk into a customer environment and you have to do a demo, you want them to do an eval, you're doing a POC or a proof of concept, you really want to have your SE armed with what they need before they get on site. So having all the connectors in the portfolio, having that library in which you can call upon for new and different customer situations really speeds your time to show the value of your software, show them what you're good at, and be able to confidently walk into any IT ecosystem and connect to the leading storage that they have in place. So today I'm going to talk to you about Progress Pacific. I'm going to focus in on some specific product lines in there, but Progress Pacific is our overarching cloud and product strategy. We deliver a complete platform as a service to market. It's one complete open platform where we focus on a number of different problems, from big data integration, app development, mobile app development, solutions to analytics challenges. We have a broad focus for Progress Pacific. Progress Pacific is really a sum of its parts. It's composed of a number of different product offerings. I'll show you the 6 of them that make up Progress Pacific today. It's an ever-increasing portfolio of services. But today we're really going to focus in on data connectivity specifically, which is the existing relationship we have with CA, and where I think there's the most opportunity for you to continue to consume and expand your usage of our software. However, it's important to know there's certainly room to grow, so if you have problems that bridge into the app development world, into business rules management, into various other data integration technologies, we have software that we can grow with you. So we have, as a follow-up, I'd be happy to provide insight into a broader portfolio as well. But today we're going to focus in on our data connectivity products, specifically Progress DataDirect and Progress DataDirect Cloud. That says exactly what I just said, so I'm just going to keep going. So let's keep going. We'll talk about Progress DataDirect and DataDirect Cloud. So the first thing I like to do is just start with what problems do we solve with our data connectivity products. And there's really 3 problems that we focus on. Where the company came from and where we built our initial partnerships were really around solving problem number 1, which is connecting an application to its core database. So you have a number of applications. I'll pull one out of a hat, Clarity as an example. So Clarity goes into an IT shop, and you're going to want to connect to their core You're going to want to store your data in Clarity inside of a core operational database. That could be Oracle, that could be DB2, that could be SQL Server. It could be a variety of options, certainly. So problem 1 is really about how does an app store its own data in a performant, reliable, scalable manner. How do we increase the performance of your application and how it deals with its core operational data? So that's where the company started. That's where much of the early business came from. And as we start to expand, we encounter these other problems in the market. So problem 2 is now Clarity, using the example I used before, Clarity exists in a larger IT ecosystem of other products. Clarity and no application today is really an island unto itself. They always have to participate and interact in a broader IT ecosystem. So whether it's understanding where pulling my customer records from a CRM system, or pulling my orders and invoice histories from ERP systems, or integrating with the data warehousing solution and analytics solution in place, there's always a fold beyond just your app into where you need to connect to outside of your application into the broader ecosystem. That could be relational connectivity, that could be SaaS applications, that could be packaged applications, that could be data warehouses for solving analytics challenges. For all those reasons, your app needs to connect not only to its core operational data, but other data that's available outside. And finally, how does the world connect to your apps? Your apps are storing very important data that people need to make business decisions based on. How can you make that data available to the rest of the world in a way that integrates with their environment, integrates with their IT ecosystem? So we have a lot of customers that use us specifically to SQL enable, to make their applications expose their data to a variety of SQL-based tools. So if I want to add reporting capabilities to an application, we have SDKs that allow you to build standards-based, high-performance drivers that pull data out of your proprietary applications and make it exposed to the world in a controlled manner. That's an example of how we solve one of those problem 3 problems. So does that make sense? Those are our 3 real problems that we focus on. Connect your app running on any platform to any database. Connect your app to the rest of the IT ecosystem, whether it's applications, big data, relational, data warehouse infrastructure, and finally, making it easy for the rest of the IT ecosystem to connect inside to your application in a standards-based manner to extract that information. So we deliver those capabilities and solve those problems through our DataDirect and DataDirect Cloud product portfolio. There's DataDirect Connect, and this is the product that today you have that universal license for. You have Connect largely for its relational connectivity capabilities. So these are ODBC, JDBC, ADO.NET drivers. If you have a data source, we likely have that connector to them, providing a full standards-based, integrates into your tooling, integrates into anyone's BI tooling, integrates into all standards-based ETL tooling. Great, fantastic implementations of these core standards, high-performance connectivity to these underlying data sources. This is really a one-to-one model. You consume a connector, you put it in your application, it connects to one of these data sources. DataDirect Cloud takes a lot of our connectivity technology and exposes it to, takes a lot of our connectivity technology and delivers it as a cloud service. So in addition to having pure on-premise embeddable deployment options, DataDirect Cloud allows you to take a single connector, one single embeddable SQL-oriented driver, and connect out to all of the different data sources that are supported by DataDirect. So whether you want to connect to Salesforce or SaaS application data coming from Marketo or Eloqua or HubSpot or any CRM or marketing automation system, whether you want to pull data from Hadoop or Hadoop through Hive or through Impala, or pull data from Mongo or any other big data system, or you want to pull data from a variety of other applications, DataDirect Cloud provides you a single driver that through our cloud service allows you to connect to all these different sources. So in a way, that's a one-to-many approach to data connectivity. And finally, there's always going to be a proprietary data format, a proprietary source, or a variety of other reasons. Something that doesn't fit well into our existing portfolio of drivers. Let's say you need connectivity to a CA-only application, and you want to expose it to the world for reporting purposes. I want to connect Excel to Clarity, and I want to do so in the easiest way possible. Well, we have an SDK that allows you to build standards-based drivers. Using our core technology, using our core reusable libraries, we have a way of building drivers that you implement simple 12 functions in the language of your choice. We support C, C++, Java, .NET. You build that one connector, you tell us how your existing proprietary data format works, and from that we can generate ODBC, JDBC, ADO.NET drivers directly from your single implementation of your proprietary data source. Okay, so that's, in a way, think about going back to those problems. Problem one, connecting to your core operational data. DataDirect Connect is a great product for that, and that's how CA has been using us, I believe, today. DataDirect Cloud helps you connect to the broader IT ecosystem, whether it's SaaS applications, whether it's big data clusters, and a variety of other data sources. And finally, for roll your own connectivity or for proprietary solutions that you want to provide standards-based connectivity to, for a report enablement as a great example, then DataDirect Open Access provides that SDK that allows you to quickly and easily generate standards-based drivers. So we started, as I mentioned, this business really focused on relational databases and relational connectivity, and that's really where CA has, familiar with us. But the driver for our growth and where we've been investing so much over the last few years are really driven by two overarching market trends. This massive explosion in SaaS data, where you no longer have that comfort of packaged applications sitting inside your data center with storing data in traditional relational databases. I can never go through the back door and I used to be able to go through the back door and get access to all the data underlying my application pretty easily because it was all stored in one place. I knew where it was, I could point to it, and I could pull whatever information I needed out of it. But the reality is more and more of our business critical data, more and more of our application workload is really moving very, very quickly to the cloud. Whether you look at small companies or large companies, people are using an average of 12 to 15 SaaS applications to do their daily job today. So now with this move to cloud, huge advantages in a variety of ways, but there's also challenges now. It introduces a pretty significant data connectivity challenge. Is how do I take advantage and leverage my existing investment in infrastructure? How can I still connect my BI environments, my analytics, and my ETL tooling environments, my BPM, my integration infrastructure? How do I connect all of that existing infrastructure to cloud applications? Well, we don't want to wait for my integration vendor to provide an adapter for each of those. We don't want to wait certainly don't want to code to the custom API provided by these hundreds of different SaaS applications. We provide you a different approach which plugs in using the existing standards that all your applications know and love, like ODBC, JDBC, and SQL, and provide broad SaaS connectivity to a variety of different SaaS applications. Big data as well. I mean, big data has driven so much of our investment and so much of our focus, both originally a lot of investment and focus around Hadoop, where Hadoop has been growing and many distributions have sprung up, focused on supporting all the different various distributions, focused on supporting all these new SQL engines that come up. So whether you're looking at Impala or Hawk from Greenplum or HBase sitting on top of Hadoop, or the next version of Hive, which they codenamed Stinger. We really focused a lot of our big data investment initially around making sure we have the market-leading connectivity through to Hadoop. Now we've really been expanding our focus and bringing in a lot of the NoSQL applications that we're seeing out there, NoSQL sources. So a lot of our focus in recent days has been, in recent months, has really been around how do we make Cassandra as easy to use as we made Hadoop? How do we make Mongo as easy to use as we made Hadoop? How can we make it possible that we could take all of these different sources, whether they're SaaS, whether they're big data, whether they're relational, whether they're data warehouses, how can we take all of those and all make them feel and look in a normalized, a similar manner so we can connect to them in one simple, easy way? So continuing. We have a large portfolio of connectivity. I'm not going to read all of these to you. You may see some that are of interest to you. You may see others you didn't know we had. What I would encourage everyone is whether you see a source on this list or you know of a connectivity need you have that you don't see the source on this list, please talk to us, work with your account team. Talk to us about our roadmap, because we are building sources constantly, and we're producing tens and 20s and multiple new sources every week, every year. So please do reach out to us and let us know, what your specific data connectivity needs and whether we need to build a custom adapter or it fits into our roadmap as it is. I think we have a lot to talk about, certainly. So take this as input into the sources you can consider, but we certainly have many more that we should and can continue to discuss. So why do our customers choose DataDirect? I mentioned this earlier, but first and foremost, a lot of people choose us simply because the performance capabilities, the performance characteristics of our technology are far superior to really everyone out there, quite honestly. So if you compare us to free, if you compare us to the other commercial drivers available, very, very often, in nearly every scenario we can think of, and we certainly test significantly for all of these scenarios, we have a pretty significant performance advantage. Some of our earlier sales, and even sales we get today, come from the mere fact that people suddenly feel that their applications are performing slower. They've maybe done a platform move. They've changed their database. Their application needs to evolve to support the next Java standard. For any variety of reasons, they make an application change, and suddenly they realize their applications are performing much slower. Very often they find DataDirect then by looking for how do we improve performance in an application. We plug in our drivers. Our drivers fit directly into your application as they exist today. There's no re-architecture. There's no recoding. So you take the application, you download one of our drivers, you check it out, you give it a try, and usually people will find out of the box, without configuring anything, they see a performance advantage. Then when they go down the path of tuning it, they see a dramatic performance increase as well. One such customer is Yamaha, certainly cares about performance, cares about speed. They were moving from their order management system from IBM. They were an all-blue shop, and they moved to more, let's say, more open architectures in many cases, moved to SQL Server, moved to Linux. But the volume of data they were processing on IBM simply brought those systems to their knees. That was their words. Their system was brought to its needs due to the performance and the the larger workload on this newer infrastructure. So they found our DataDirect SQL Server driver, they plugged it in to replace their free drivers that they were using, and there was a 20-time performance increase that they saw even before they started tuning. So it's usually very surprising for people to find out how much of the application's performance is related or directly caused by interactions with the data layer. And it's usually it's a great conversation when we can prove this to people, because they find they just plug in a simple driver, they made no changes to their app, and suddenly they've dramatically increased the performance when they've been blocked in the database. So Yamaha, great success story around their performance qualities. But continuing, it's not the only reason people choose DataDirect. Also connecting the world, allowing their applications to be connected to across various systems and IT infrastructures, various devices, applications, people, etc. So making it easy for not only you to connect to your data, but also for the rest of the world to connect to you, that problem 3 we spoke about before. A great example of this is HP database archiving. So HP has a fantastic compliance-oriented and long-term storage-oriented solution where they pull data from a variety of databases, and they have a very large-scale, efficient, and performant archiving solution. So they bring all this data from operational stores, they put it into longer-term file and XML-based storage. However, their customers have a problem still, because you still need that data in order to make good business decisions. How I can do historical trending. Let me look at my history of my data with third-party reporting tools, BI tools. Let me integrate with my data warehouse. For all of these reasons, even though you've put the data to rest in an archive, you still need access to it to continue to have a full picture of the history of your organization. It becomes part of your enterprise data warehouse infrastructure. So for this purpose, they chose Progress, and they used Progress's DataDirect Open Access product to create a custom ODBC connector and JDBC connector for their proprietary data format. So what that allowed them to do is go to all of their customers and say, not only do we provide you the best option for long-term storage of your data, not only do we have an efficient mechanism to pull the data from those systems and store it for you on your behalf, but you can continue to have that same level of visibility into the data. You can continue to have that same connectivity from all of your IT tools, because we'll provide you a pure standards-based driver that makes it feel and act like a relational database, even though it's a proprietary XML storage technology. So fantastic results from this, huge win within HP. It's been available and working very well with them for a number of years. And because of the efficiency and the productivity they gained by using our adapter toolkit, that's the open access product, they got the product to market very, very quickly, and they had the sales team support to prove out the technology, and they went right to contract in their early market. So really exciting and a really good opportunity that we pursued inside of HP. Great results. DataDirect Cloud is another example of how we make it possible to connect the world into your technology. So DataDirect Cloud, it is that universal driver approach I discussed before. I can give you one connector, one ODBC or JDBC connector that allows you to connect to all of the different data sources supported by DataDirect technology. So whether you're looking to connect to SaaS applications, relational databases, data warehouse technology, big data, etc., all of those are available through that one connector. Now this uses our cloud service in order to implement that. So it's best suited for cloud products in many cases, but we provide that single unified access point for SQL access. Everything in the world can be made to look like a relational database for the purposes of integrating into your app. High performance real-time access, certainly, so we can still connect you directly to the data in a performant manner through our cloud. You can certainly embed it in your applications, and it certainly decreases your cost, because instead of managing multiple connectors, you're working now with one. So to tell you a little bit more about where we're going with DataDirect Cloud, starting in 2013, we released DataDirect Cloud, and we're really focused on connecting existing BI, ETL application platforms through JDBC and ODBC, largely to a variety of SaaS applications. We've evolved from there, so advances in 14, we've really added this capability, which allows us to connect not only through to SaaS applications, but also back to on-premise data. So through that one cloud service, using our on-premise connector, you can also tunnel from cloud back to on-premise through firewalls without any significant IT setup. So all of this happens over pure HTTP, over pure HTTPS. It travels very well through firewalls in all cases that we've tested through and come across. So a really strong advance in the DataDirect Cloud product, allowing you not only connect to your SaaS applications, but also back to on-premise. So we've found this has really resonated strongly with those of our customers that are moving to cloud or creating SaaS applications or adding SaaS applications to their portfolio, by providing not only connectivity to other applications in the cloud, but also providing them a way to integrate with existing systems back on premise. So if I'm creating the new CA solution in the cloud, but I'm replacing or transitioning from an existing on-premise tool, I can do that in a very phased manner and introduce my cloud service, but still maintain deep connectivity back to data behind the firewall. So we can have almost a hybrid approach. And that's not all we're doing in DataDirect Cloud. Our next real investment in 2014 is around how can we go to places where drivers don't live. So as I said with DataDirect Cloud, we started with JDBC and ODBC, and those are obviously our core standards and great for integrating with BI and ETL and application platforms. But what about mobile applications? What about new cloud platforms like Microsoft Azure or Salesforce? They don't make it very easy to plug in drivers to a phone. They don't make it very easy to plug in drivers to a Force.com or Salesforce One based application. How can we provide that same level of connectivity that we can deliver today through DataDirect Cloud to BI and ETL and app platforms? How can we provide that same level of connectivity to mobile applications and to cloud-based applications built on PaaS systems? Well, the way we do that is actually coming out this month. And we've worked to create not only that JDBC and ODBC layer, but to add an OData based layer. So OData is an emerging standard. It was originally fostered by Microsoft, extended and worked with SAP as well, and now it's gone to a true standards body inside of Oasis, and it's becoming more and more of a prevalent standard. So what this does is instead of having to use a driver at all, you can implement a pure REST protocol, pure HTTP, pure JSON, and get data access for all of those sources behind DataDirect Cloud, even without using a driver. I can build we actually have built a number of mobile applications internally that allow us to connect to a variety of SaaS systems and back to our on-premise databases, all through this OData provider. So it almost gives you driverless connectivity. Not only is this good for mobile, though, because in mobile there are plenty of development kits, and both in Java and for HTML5 that help you build these things, build against OData. They support the standard natively, but also leading cloud platforms, specifically Salesforce One and Microsoft Azure, have also adopted OData. So not only does it open up our connectivity solutions to mobility, but it also allows us to provide additional connectivity options for people building Salesforce-based applications and Microsoft Azure-based applications. And once again, whether you're using JDBC, ODBC, or our new OData provider capabilities, all of our SaaS and on-premise sources are available through this one single interface. So you can connect your mobile application to your big data cluster running behind the firewall sitting in Hadoop. All through DataDirect Cloud in 2014. And finally, and where I'm going to focus the rest of my discussion, is really around how do we simplify the chaos? How can we deal with all of these new data sources that has really been both in the big data space, largely in the big data space, the NoSQL space, the new SQL space. There's been this explosion of new data sources. So how can we help you to deal with that? How can we normalize that and make it appear, make the similarities between the data sources the focus, and give you one approach to integrating with the widest variety of these data sources? So whether you're talking to Hadoop or Cassandra or Mongo, still continuing to use those data sources for the power that they expose, but providing a simple way for you to access the data sitting inside of them, and to provide integration mechanisms that allow you to access data inside of them in one standard normalized way. Let's talk a little bit about that. MicroStrategy, a good customer of ours. I could argue that CA is another valid example of this, where MicroStrategy has chosen to partner with us because we make their integration with all of these different data sources much, much easier. So they embed our drivers, and they have our entire library, our entire portfolio of drivers available to customers of MicroStrategy, deeply embedded, so no one necessarily knows they're using DataDirect. They're just using MicroStrategy's branded drivers. But what that allows them to do is they have a single vendor. I always like to say the one throat to choke, where all of their data connectivity comes from one source. Reduces their QA complexity. It reduces their development workload because they're dealing with one consistent set of connectors that allow them to code against any data source as if they were all the same support for SQL, for example. So let's think about how this applies in a few different ways. So I'm going to look at a little bit of NoSQL right now. So we have an active beta going on right now and releasing in about 2 or 3 weeks our first MongoDB based driver, both for JDBC and ODBC. If you guys have Mongo projects, I highly encourage you to check these out. And what you see is that most of the industry and most of the competition when you're dealing with NoSQL storage, they really do their best to cram the NoSQL data into the interface in the quickest and easiest way possible. So in this case with Mongo is a document-oriented database, and what they do is they flatten it. So what does that look like? So you take Mongo, you take this nice JSON document that you see in the middle there, and the way I would flatten that is I just make a simple and easy table that has all of the different attributes as columns in that table. The problem is that doesn't really work. For those of you that know SQL on the phone, you can't have, what happens when I add another email address? Now I have a new column with email 3 that suddenly changes my schema. This approach of flattening doesn't really, it's not the natural way for data to be consumed. It's not the natural way that a BI tool expects to find the data. It actually leads to a lot of coding complexity because you're consistently dealing with changes in the column structure, and it's entirely denormalized data. You have a lot of repetition in all of this data as well. So it really dramatically complicates the process of coding and developing against data in this format, as well as just consuming it in standards-based tools like BI tools. So we take a dramatically different approach there. Our approach is to normalize the data. We not only want to cram it into the interface so it works with JDBC and ODBC, we not only want to make it work with standards-based SQL, which many tools don't even do that, but we want it to feel naturally and work as if it were relational data. So what do people do with relational data? Well, we normalize that data. So we take the document and for lack of a better word, we shred it. So we shred it into a variety of virtual tables that are all related together. So instead of having that big, flat, fat table that continues to change its schema, what we do is we shred them apart into a set of interrelated tables and build keys and foreign key relationships between them. And we do all of this in a way that's transparent to the underlying, it's transparent to Mongo and transparent to the consuming application. So we create these virtual schemas, these virtual tables with all of the relationships in place, which provides you an extremely natural approach to dealing with, because it not only fits into the standard that we all say is SQL, but it also feels like relational data, which is exactly what these tools were designed to handle. So even though I'm storing in Mongo, it really naturally looks and feels like relational data when you access it through our driver, which is very important, because as we work with Mongo customers, their goal is not only to use Mongo for the great benefits it has for storing JSON-based objects under web applications, but also to make their broader IT ecosystem connect to that data so they can still drive business decisions from there. And the best way of doing that still today is through SQL. We also take this approach with, so one of the benefits of this approach, I've kind of covered them to some extent already, but the complex types and all of those big document-oriented stuff, that's, we expose it in a way that's very familiar and natural to a SQL practitioner. As arrays grow, you remember all those emails that we saw? You don't want the email 3 column and the email 7 column to suddenly appear. Arrays grow, but our table definitions remain constant, because we've done the thought up front about how the most natural way to map it into SQL is, and we maintain that without splitting and joining and changing the schema dynamically. And there's a number of other ones that I won't talk you through. Apache Cassandra, we take a very, very similar approach. So the traditional approach for Cassandra is to flatten everything into big tables. Right? So you have, now with Cassandra, that's an interesting approach, because you end up having tables with thousands and thousands of columns potentially, which is not exactly what people are looking for anyway. However, that is usually what you see out there, is this large-scale, big, fat table around Cassandra if you're trying to expose it through standards-based tools. We, once again, take that normalization approach. We look at the data and we say, what's the best way of mapping Cassandra data into a relational model? So we have a great approach here. It's actually patent pending because we think it's so novel and interesting and differentiated from what other people are doing. but our approach is to normalize that data, take advantage of the fact that Cassandra has really static data and then a significant set of variable columns out there, and start mapping in a different way based on whether they're static or dynamic columns. So as an example, with that previous example, remember we saw we had, well, I'll just look back at it real quickly. We had CDs and then all of their songs, and you'll note that the length of the song is what's recorded in the column value, and the name of the song is the column name. Now think about how many actual columns you would see if you started naming every song out there and made a column out of it. So what we do is we actually take the static data and pull that out as a single table, and then we generate related tables for the dynamic columns. So in a way, and this is where my engineering geekiness comes out, even though it's coming out a little bit all over the place, but we flip the table on its side. So we rotate the table. So instead of the columns being the song names, which is a common practice in Cassandra to use a lot of data as the columns themselves, we actually rotate the tables so that we create essentially rows out of those columns and then backlink them to the static table. So that's really, really geeky. I want to show you this a lot more, and I'd love to talk to you about it in much, much more detail. But the overarching messages and what you should go away remembering is that for each and every source, we think through what the most natural mapping is to a SQL and a standards-based approach. And for each source, we specialize in creating the best format and the best approach to representing that data to all of the different consuming tools out there. So whether we're dealing with massive big table structures like you see in Cassandra, document-oriented databases like we see with Mongo, Hadoop through a variety of SQL engines and NoSQL with HBase on top of it and HDFS underlying it. For each and every big data source, we do the hard work of mapping it into a natural SQL-oriented abstraction. So you don't have to, and you don't have to deal with all the differences between the sources. You can leverage all the similarities and the consistency that we create through our portfolio of connectors. So I want to make sure we save a little bit of time for questions. We're getting a lot of questions on the chat panel, which is good. But as a brief sum up, so we solve Progress Software as an organization. We solve a variety of use cases, whether you're looking at us for application development, data connectivity, and data integration. Today we really focused on our data connectivity products in Progress DataDirect and DataDirect Cloud. We have this long history of partnering, both with CA. I think, Mike, we said it was a 14-year partnership already. And for many more years in the future, I would hope and expect that we have many long-standing relationships like that. We understand the needs of ISVs, and we understand the needs of OEMs better than anyone else in the market. Our specialty is making products that you can easily and quickly embed inside of your own portfolio of products. We provide a broad portfolio of connectivity, so if you're looking for relational, big data, data warehouses, NoSQL, NewSQL, SaaS application sources, all of them are designed to be consumed in a consistent manner and available to you, through that portfolio of adapters. Our unique approach to NoSQL connectivity, it's unique in that we're patenting it, as well as it's unique in that we've gone through the real diligence and the real thoughtfulness around what the best way to do this and make it feel like relational data versus forcing a mapping and cramming it into an interface so you can get the driver out quickest. And as always, there's only so much I can cover in a webinar. I really do want to follow up. Please work with your account team, both Mike Shaka and Melissa, who are here in the panel with me, and do reach out to them for any more information. And certainly, you don't have to believe me. Go download the software, eval the software, test it out yourself, see the performance benefits we have, enter our beta programs around Mongo. Let's do some early work with you around Cassandra. Whatever the right fit is for CA, the proof is in the pudding. So let's work together and get these kind of connectors tried out in the CA portfolio. So with that, I do want to leave we have about 10 minutes left so we can do some Q&A, and I see a bunch forming on the list. As I said, your account team, both Mike and Melissa, are here also to answer any questions you might have, and they are the best people to reach out with. They know how to reach all of us inside of Progress for your questions.
Okay, at this point, I have entered some questions that have been coming in throughout today's session. And Jamie or Mike or Melissa, please feel free to take any of them that you like. I think you have an awful lot to choose from.
I do have quite a few to choose from, so I'm going to just start going down the list. Let's see what we got. I would like to know more on exposing SaaS app data for reporting purposes in detail. So there's a variety of ways in which we do that. For some popular SaaS applications like Salesforce and Marketo and Eloqua and HubSpot and a variety of different SaaS applications, we build those connectors today and can sell both DataDirect Connect oriented versions of those connectors, or provide you DataDirect Cloud access to those for reporting purposes. So I do have a number of customers that strictly use us and plug our Salesforce ODBC connector right into Excel, or they plug our they plug our Marketo connector from DataDirect Cloud into Pentaho for BI uses. So there's certainly the connectors we build fit very well into reporting environments. Now, if you want to build your own connector, so let's say we're building that Clarity connector we used as an example before, there's a few ways we can do that as well. Generally, what we recommend is we have this great productive toolkit called Open Access, and you implement 12 functions inside of Open Access, and then you get an ODBC, a JDBC, an ADO.NET connector that fits into nearly every reporting environment I could think of. They all support, in one way, shape, or form, one of those standards for SQL access. So those are really the two main ways I talk about. Either we have one, or we're building one on our roadmap, or we have a toolkit which allows you to build one as well. Okay, so continuing on those questions, can your driver or the SDK-based access work through secure TCP HTTPS tunnel, and what security checks do you have? So our drivers in a variety of ways do work through tunneling. I will say that the product that is best at doing that HTTP-oriented tunneling is DataDirect Cloud today, because DataDirect Cloud has a pure HTTPS-oriented protocol that travels through every firewall, everywhere. It is a secure tunnel. With DataDirect Cloud, because of the heightened security required for HTTP tunneling, we encrypt everything. There's no HTTP option, it's all HTTPS. We also encrypt data that we store in flight. There's a variety of security capabilities we've added, but yes, we've certainly worked through the details of an HTTP-oriented data protocol. And we also now, with OData coming out, we also have another approach, which is pure HTTP, pure REST, that also will work through any tunneling I could think through. Question: how about Cassandra? Okay, so I don't have as much context on that, but yeah, I think I did speak to Cassandra quite a bit on the call. Cassandra is in active development. We have the slide where I showed you, we do have working, and Cassandra is planned to be released this year. So if that's something that's of interest to CA, let's certainly work together and get you into an early adopter program around to get your feedback around what we're doing and work with you to get you that driver during this year. How about Google Maps? Today I don't have Google Maps support. Love to hear more about that use case, but I'm going to kind of skip that question at this point, and that's something probably we can follow up through. And if there is an urgent need around Google Maps, let's discuss, because it would not be impossible to build such a driver if that were the right fit for our technology. Okay. So let me look through here again. Here's a longer question. I need to know if there's intermediate storage for when we do normalization of data, and how do we synchronize that data. So it varies. So in the products I spoke to you about today, there is some level of intermediate storage. So DataDirect Connect, as an example, when we're using our Salesforce connectivity, we have a built-in cache there. So we do cache the data for a period of time to prevent us from going back to Salesforce with so many different requests, because what we found is that if we hit Salesforce with too many web service requests, they run out of their quota very quickly for the day. So by providing caching, we can provide near real-time data with extremely high performance, but allow them to manage their web service quota limit as well by not having to go back to Salesforce. Now you can turn off caching if you want pure real-time in all cases, DataDirect Cloud will do some level of intermediate storage, but largely just for paging the data, so it's very ephemeral. So in general, DataDirect Cloud provides a full pipe directly to the data. So if you fail over, if there's a failure, you just reconnect, and you're still accessing the same data and the same data source. We don't have that full, we don't have a full intermediate layer where we're storing everything except for per session usage. Let me continue. What's the footprint of this software? What's the install experience? And is the server involved? In general, our software has a relatively small footprint. The DataDirect Cloud driver is extremely small. The DataDirect Connect, the entire portfolio of drivers is not even a gigabyte really. So it's certainly designed for embeddability. People take one driver, 10 drivers, all of our drivers. So the footprint is based on how much connectivity you need. If you're using DataDirect Cloud, you just need one. If you're using DataDirect Connect, you want to have one for every source. The install experience is we do have full installers available for across every platform that we support. We also allow you to brand the drivers as part of your install experience. So we have an installer for OEMs specifically that allow you to create the CA variants of those drivers. And there is no install server involved because we're designed for embeddability. We don't want you to have to go to our servers to get the software as part of the install experience. You certainly go to our servers to download the initial package, but it's an entirely self-contained experience. Question, is OData there now or roadmap? Well, it's a little bit of both. So it is there now in sort of a beta. We actually are looking for beta participants in our OData usage, but it's releasing extremely soon. So if I had this call with you in a few weeks, I might have a different answer. So today, it is available today for beta, and it will be GAing in the coming weeks. How much intermediate storage does your driver approach needs? How much percent more? So yeah, as I said, we don't really do a lot of intermediate storage. We do caching, which increases your performance and doesn't introduce significant overhead. For NoSQL data source. Does DataDirect Cloud support query caching for NoSQL data sources? Today we do not, but it is on the roadmap. So DataDirect Cloud for NoSQL is actually more of our roadmap with including the caching aspects of it. We actually have Mongo and Cassandra being introduced in our Connect portfolio first, or in our DataDirect on-premise portfolio first, because we've seen a lot more on-premise usage and standalone driver usage with big data systems. So are there others on the call? Those are the main questions I have in my list right now. We can unmute and let anyone else ask a question if they'd like.
At this point, we don't have any other questions. And we're wrapping right up in time so people can have a couple minutes between.
You can actually run to your next meeting for the next 3 minutes. You're lucky guys. Okay, so I want to thank everyone today for your participation. I hope this helped you understand some of the opportunity you have to look at our technology and what it could potentially do for you. I do encourage you to follow up with our friends pictured here to help get to that next level of detail. And I certainly can make myself and my team available to support your questions as well. So really appreciate your time today. Appreciate you sitting through this, and looking forward to following up with everyone.